I can't type. Do 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 do. Energy up, energy up. I also noticed um, in pretty much every one of our episodes so far, we get into this little banter bit and our energy is like where it needs to be. And then we
We
realize
start
that we have to
talking
read something
and
and
we
then we
fail.
we completely backtrack and then it takes us a good like 20 minutes to get back to this level that we're at right now.
Okay. I feel well, I think also a lot of these days, like I've been tired or like just waking
Yeah,
up or, my day didn't go the way I planned. So I feel pretty good right now and I'll try to
yeah.
keep the energy up. This new microphone, how can I not, dude? With it blinking in my face all the time and me accidentally hitting my lips on it.
3, 2, 1. Dark Lord.
Or maybe I just have that thing where caffeine makes me tired and I'm just slowly taking away my own energy and I don't know it. I'm just sapping my life force.
Maybe.
Do you wanna? Do you wanna?
Welcome back to 321 Backlog, the podcast where we play and discuss games from our video game backlog. My name is Alec, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend James.
Hello, guys. How's it going? Beautiful day out today. Ready to talk about a terrible game.
We're getting so good at this. Today we're talking about Ori and the was it Ori and the Blind Forest? I should probably know this.
It's
Today we're
yeah.
today we're talking about Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition. The forest of Nibel is dying. After a powerful storm sets a series of devastating events in motion, Ori must journey to find courage and confront a dark nemesis to save the forest of Nibel. Ori and the Blind Forest tells the tale of a young orphan destined for heroics through visually stunning action platformer crafted by Moon Studios, featuring hand-painted artwork, meticulously animated character performance, a fully orchestrated score, and dozens of new features in the definitive edition. Ori and the Blind Forest explores a deeply emotional story about love and sacrifice and the hope that exists in all of us.
We're not going to play that poverty edition here.
No.
So originally released in 2015, and then subsequently the definitive edition was released in 2016. Both editions carry a Metacritic score of 88. So
Awesome.
apparently somebody liked this game, Alec.
And it wasn't me.
Well, we'll get into that. I'm sorry.
No, you and I both, I think, in maybe varying degrees of intensity, we both got a lot going on.
Yeah.
I new kid at the house for me, and traveling across multiple state lines, sitting down to play a game.
Sounds like you
Especially,
need a Steam Deck.
especially I might trying to play two games because we pick two at a time, and then we'll try to get both of them done. That gets rough, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that kind of really influenced my playthrough of this game, and also of BioShock. I think I had a little bit better of a time with BioShock, and we can talk
Right.
about that during that episode. But this
Yeah.
one was a lot of outside influence, and the game itself, even though I had it on easy mode, the the platforming was really hard for me. How did it do for you?
I didn't die once. It's
Okay.
tough, man. I know I'm not good at games, but man, I was kind of surprised just how bad I guess I am. I don't know. I finished the game, but it took a lot, and I think enjoying it a lot helped though. I really did like, and I think platformers might be like one of my top genres as far as enjoyment, so that helped.
Yeah, I'm actually looking right now to see how much gameplay I actually got into it.
That shouldn't be too. I have
Uh,
that, so it. Go ahead.
I got you had 8 hours
That's
roughly.
not right. That can't be it.
Well, unless you were logged on and or unless
Oh, there
my
was a time where I think I was playing it offline. So
okay, I have a total of 108 minutes, and that's how long
The
it
old
took me.
college try.
That's how long it took me to realize that one, I am not good at this. This game was too hard for me, and if you're gonna try and sit down and play a game for a podcast, you need to really not have a bunch of outside distractions. Because my
Yeah.
goodness, this felt like work, and it was so hard to do. And I think it, and
Come
honestly,
on.
I think it does the game a disservice because I I wanted to like it so bad so much. I just think I had too much going on, and I
Oh
really
yeah.
couldn't put it forward. So I don't think I'm gonna strike it off of my backlog. But for
Okay.
now, I think I'm okay.
Stay tuned for part 2, guys.
So yeah, what this was your selection, right?
Yeah, it was. I had it. I think when I first bought like an Xbox, we put it on there because we got Game Pass, and I played it for like 5 minutes or something. I got through the prologue basically, and I put it up, and I thought this is going to be a pretty tough game. And then I gave my Xbox away, and I never played it again. But then it went on sale on Steam for like $5, I think, for both the Will of the Wisps and the Blind Forest. So I bought it, and I was really excited to play it because, I think I mentioned in the last couple episodes, I'm just excited to play video games again. So I just slammed it down on the front of the backlog.
Yeah, talking about playing through the prologue because I played through that and I was like, man, this is great. I'm going to get a nice linear platforming experience,
Ah,
and it doesn't seem like it's too terrible. And man, did it just rip me a new one after a bit. It is. I don't want to jump ahead too much to control to like the to slamming it. But it was not linear fully. It was like semi-linear. You how would
yeah.
you describe that? Because you were going up, down, left, right. You had to backtrack to a
It's
bunch of different
a
places.
it's its own genre kind of. They call it's a platforming, but it's like Metroidvania style. So the whole
Hmm.
concept, a lot of people really like this, is that you start off in a very small area and the whole world expands around you. But the reason it expands is because you're able to backtrack once you get new abilities and stuff. And I know in other games, but not so much this one, there's a lack of linearity to it where you can kind of just go and get an ability early on and then kind of like push forward. You can kind of, but this one I guess has more linearity where you have to get this ability first and do this. But there's like speed runs of it where people have beat the game in like insanely fast.
Uh,
I watched a video of it
ooh,
after I finished the game of somebody, and I actually learned a lot of how I could be playing the game differently just from watching that.
mhm.
And I felt like when I came back to the game and did some of the extras in it, I felt like the game was on, I don't want to say it was on easy mode, but I just felt like I had learned so much stuff that I could do. But that's the whole thing with the game. You kind of explore around and then you acquire either more health or more abilities, orbs and stuff like that, and upgrade your character a little bit more. And you kind of get to pick how much of that you do, which will
Right.
in turn make the game easier for you. But
Yeah, I think for the talent tree specifically, I think I ended up getting maybe 5 or 6 talent points. So I
which
honestly, I took
talents did you take?
I
Yeah,
went
like
through
which
the
tree?
bottom most, and I can't remember what they were specifically, but I
I think
remember it
those
was
were
most on the
on.
bottom row,
I think that was based on damage, kind of. If that's
possibly.
yeah, the one I initially went with was more about you could gain health. But maybe that's why I had an easier experience. But it would be like you could gain health back when you saved,
Oh,
and
interesting.
you would get more
Well, let's not
life
talk about
back
the
from.
saving on that because how they introduced saving the game was irritating as all get
There's
out.
no saving this game for you, huh?
Man, I brought this up when we were talking about Wind Waker and Aladdin, right? Kind of going back to these old games. This is not an old game. It's
It's an old
2015.
style, yeah.
It's old style, right? But going back to these old games, you had to kind of remember, hey, some games you just don't save, right? And that's one thing that I've really enjoyed in these newer gen the things that we're playing today in the 2000s and on, typically you have automatic saves or you can save when you want. And it really irked me that to save in this game you either had to be in a very specific point or you had to have enough of like your mana or whatever it was called as a resource. And that was
Kinetic
just a
energy.
weird mechanic to me. That
Yeah, but I
you
think
have
that's a way to
you know,
introduce some difficulty and try to. It's not like Limbo where you die and it's like there's no
yeah.
almost no consequence. But
And I guess I to what you said, Metroidvania games. I don't know if I can't think of any off the top of my head. I guess other than
Metroid or Castlevania would be
Metroid,
two
right?
top ones.
You
Mega
know,
Man is often described as kind of a Metroidvania style.
and I never played those, so I
I
think
yeah.
I think this was probably the first of this game for me. So it was a bit of a shock. We the first time when it's like, oh hey, go ahead and long press this to save, and it took away my resources. I was like, what in the hell is happening right now?
Yeah, but I think that's kind of for me that's kind of the charm because there's a little bit of resource management. And I think man, this game I think goes pretty light on the difficulty that comes with these types of games a lot of the time.
Hmm.
So when we play Hollow Knight, that's going to be a nightmare for you.
I
And I'm not
think,
it's on my log, so my
yeah,
backlog.
I think for me, I think what happened with the saving was I got to a point. I got the new ability or whatever it was, or wherever it happened to be. But I got something that made me I had to go back and I had to go find where it was that I needed to go because I unlocked, I don't know, maybe double jump or like the little burst that you get for like an energy burst, and I had to go like unlock something
Right.
to backtrack. And one, I couldn't remember where the hell I was going, and I found late that you had a map, which was fun. And I think I
Oh, I use that map a
backtracked.
lot. Yeah.
I think I backtracked for like, it was probably like 5 minutes, but it felt like 10, 15 minutes. And I misunderstood a jump and died and lost all of that stuff. And I had
Yep.
no energy to save. And it was just, it was so it was just a constant. I'd port back in, get to the spot, and I kept dying in the same spot, but I had no ability to save any further. And it was just excruciating.
Every once in a while, if I took like I think I became a little more aware of that early on, how you would need to do that.
Hmm.
I would if I would take too much damage trying to get something accomplished, I would just do the little Ori suicide to start back at that point,
Hmm.
get my health back, and then I could try it again. But I think that, again, that kind of comes with a little bit more of experience with the game, and
Yeah.
you just kind of learn. I'm sure a lot of other people did that too. Just you know, to give yourself that little bit of an advantage. Because I know myself, there's no way if I lost more than 50% of my health getting in there, I'm probably going to lose the rest of it trying to get out. So,
Yeah. I worry, especially with this next bit. I worry that I'm going to come across as what's the bad gamer term? A casual. I always thought of myself as a gamer, and I still do, but I don't think I played as many games as I thought because I would pick like one game, one big game every year, or and that would be my
yeah,
game.
I,
Or
I feel like
we got stuck in the World of Warcraft back in the day, and like that was
yeah.
the game, right?
I feel
So
like playing games like that where it's a long-term type of game kind of diminished a lot of my. That's why I got a backlog because you're playing the
mhm.
like one game for
Yeah.
ever and ever and ever, and you still have to go to work and do all this other stuff. But then you've got income, so you're buying games.
Right. And I think what ended up happening for me on this one, in this round of our game selection, which I want to talk later about, our maybe a format change. We decided at the same time we're going to play Ori and we're going to play BioShock,
Right.
and then we'll when we get those done, then we'll record our episodes and be good to go. I'm really bad at switching between games
Yeah.
because I can't learn the controls of two games.
Yeah, well, imagine if we happen to have two platformers where they had an entirely
Oh
like the
my
same
goodness.
type of game but different. Yeah, so we'll split it up and we'll do one game at a time because I feel like that'll also be better too because I can focus more on it. And
Oh, for sure.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I played this so yeah, I played this between my main PC, and then when I travel, I bring a gaming laptop with me, and I'll bring a controller and all that. And going in different environments, different PCs. My bigger PC at home plays much better than my laptop does. So it was a lot of switching back around and stuff like that. So it was definitely a mixed
Good thing for cloud
experience.
saving though.
Oh man, yeah.
You just need to get a Steam Deck, dude.
I might. Hey, if we make it big with this podcast, or my 3D printing takes off like gangbusters, maybe.
If you see one at an airport, maybe.
Maybe,
If some kid goes to the bathroom and leaves a
maybe.
Steam Deck on the ground. Anyway,
Yeah.
we don't promote thievery here.
No, so yeah, and again, I think I would enjoy this game. I just had a lot of outside factors that were messing with me on this one.
Yeah.
So I don't want to bash it too much. Like
That was my favorite ability in the game was called Bash.
I absolutely am going to play this again at some point. It just might be a while. So yeah. Other than that, I did want to call out the artwork and the graphics themselves
Beautiful
were
game. Yeah.
phenomenal. It was amazing.
Yeah, and that's actually what made me want to play it. I didn't really think I was feeling that when I first downloaded it, the game just looked amazing to me. And when back on the Xbox, I just wanted to play it for the visuals of it. And I thought it was going to be real easy.
It was real good. There were points, and this is me not playing a lot of these types of games. There were points that the graphics were. I don't know if it was that they were so good, or if this had really anything to do with it. Maybe it was just the level design. There were some things that it was really hard to tell where the platforming assets that you interact with and the background that is just there to be background.
Yeah.
Those bled together a lot in not like a bad way, but like in the background images and artwork versus the foreground stuff was just so well done
Yeah.
that it was very seamless. And there were some spots of it where I thought there was a background piece that I couldn't interact with, but it was what I needed to interact with. One of the first times that there was like those spider creatures that you saw, and there was
Right.
this big nest. I thought that was just a background piece.
I felt like
And I,
because it was moving, I kind of knew something had to happen with it, but that was the only thing I think in the entire game I had to look up what to do
yeah,
because I could not figure out that you needed to knock the big like egg nest down.
yeah,
I had to look it up because I was so lost about it. But yeah.
yeah. There
But
was
I felt like it was obvious that it was very out of place. Like you knew you had to do something with it,
yeah,
right?
you knew to do something, but I didn't think you'd be able to. I thought it was going to be like a thing that you did something else to get that interact with it. I didn't think it was
Yeah.
something you could like climb on, like you ended up doing.
Well, you knock it down. Did you knock it
Right.
down? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think you hit it, but you have to like, if I remember correctly, you have to like interact with it to get on top of it,
Right.
and then go to like the other side of it, and then you get a chance to knock
There's
it
a
down.
rock I think that it's
Yeah,
attached to, and you blow the rock up and it falls.
right.
Yeah. Did you? Okay. So how far? I guess we'll kind of just briefly. I liked the prologue. The prologue is all I got through it, but I noticed when I was playing it, I paused it for a second, and you have the option to skip it, which is cool because I know with this style of game, there's always a lot of people that do speed running. So it's kind of cool that you could just skip the prologue part of it.
Oh, I did not know you could skip the prologue.
Yeah, it's just
I think
because
I
it's
just
not
thought.
really it's not teaching you much about the game, I guess.
Mhm.
But if you wanted to get through it again pretty quickly, you can just skip it. But it was so heartfelt. Why would you do that? Uh, but yeah, so there was a lot of that kind of interacting. And then there was like another thing I would encounter a lot where you would kind of see things that you knew you could interact with. This is what I like about it is there were areas you knew you could interact with, but you would try all your abilities and stuff, and none of them would do anything. So you know you're going to come back to that eventually. That was kind of a driving factor.
I definitely need to go back because I think there's a lot that I didn't get to experience. The main thing I got to experience over and over again was Jabba the Hutt making a voice acting appearance.
Ooh.
That was that was so distracting. Like
Really? I thought it was fine.
I hated it.
Why?
I thought it was such an unnecessary thing, right? To like
Well,
some
maybe they
people,
speak a different. Not everybody speaks American.
Guardians of the Galaxy, all those beings should be speaking different languages, but they all happen to speak English, right?
It's you don't find that weird.
Yeah, it's no, it's just it's we take in storytelling when it's things that we may not understand, we get to hear it as if we could understand it,
Right.
right? And I just thought having this weird it was like a comical to me like interpretation of Jabba the Hutt giving some heartfelt speech about this orphaned creature, right? I think, and then you had to listen to it and then read subtitles, which some people like subtitles, some people don't. I particularly don't. So I think it would have been much better if the voice, the actor, the voice actor, I don't know who it was, it sounded amazing. He had a great voice for it, great cadence. But if he just said the actual words that we could understand, I think it would have hit much better to me.
It was Kevin Michael Richardson was the
Okay.
that was the voice actor for
Okay.
Jabba the Hutt,
You're killing me.
according to Google.
According to Google. So yeah, whoever did it for Ori the Blind Forest, amazing voice. But I think if they just spoke, in our case, English, or if they did it for other
American.
languages, American, I that would have just been better because you wouldn't have had
Okay.
to like fill the screen up with the lettering and all that. And
I don't mind that.
yeah, I think it would have been better if it was just like English.
Maybe I have I'm practically deaf, I think, so I like subtitles and stuff in a game. It's the first thing I do, man. I went on even on BioShock. Whoops. Even on BioShock, I just immediately go in and I turn the subtitles on because I want to be able to. I want to be able to really understand what's being said. So maybe that's why it didn't bother me. But I also feel like it just kind of fleshes out the game a little bit more. But I don't know. To me that it seems like a very strange thing to be upset about. But
I wouldn't say I'm upset about it. It's just I didn't experience
we're having a
so much-
funeral for your emotions.
I didn't experience enough of the game. But
Yeah.
that was one thing that I encountered like 3 or 4 times, and it was I wouldn't say jarring, but it was definitely
It was definitely the worst thing that ever happened.
it
to you.
was yeah. I don't know how to articulate it exactly, but I think it just was a weird
not a fan.
choice. I wasn't a fan. The sound quality was great on all of it. It sounded nice, but it was just I think it would have been better if it was a language that existed for us to understand.
Okay, well that's it wouldn't have bothered me if they did that, but like it didn't bother me how it was either.
I'm very particular.
Okay, yeah, that's dude. I'm so particular about certain things in games, so I'm not even gonna give you any crap about it.
I think it is similar vein. My wife has not watched certain like critically acclaimed shows because of like an accent that the main actor would have.
Is that agoraphobic?
I don't know if if there's a name for it, but it was like, oh, that actor they're putting on too weird of like a country drawl or something, and it just sounds artificial. She just won't watch the show because it sounds weird.
Okay.
So I think it's I don't think I'm fully alone in this, but I don't think it took enough away from the game. I think the game was still good. It was just a little weird, quirky thing.
Yeah, it didn't bother me much at all, but that's okay.
My notes are coming to a close here, so I'm worried that I didn't get enough. So you're going to be
That's
really
okay. Yeah,
telling me a lot about this now. So
I'm gonna
try to buffer.
Did you encounter? There was an area where it was like very very dark in it. Did you end up in that area at all?
I made it.
I feel like you would know it if you saw it.
I got to a point where I was going to get, I think, a wisp or something, like with the things you're like collecting or whatnot. And this creature, this like
I love that
bipedal
guy.
creature, he like stole it, and I started chasing him.
Yeah, I like that character. I think he's kind of almost seems like a monkey or something to me.
So I think I think I finally got to him
Okay.
and defeated him, and that's about where I stopped.
Did you? Well, you don't defeat him.
And maybe yeah, then maybe I didn't do it. I thought I was chasing him, and then I encountered something that was a boss-ish maybe, and
Yeah, boss adjacent.
yeah, and I think that's about where I stopped. So
Do you care if I give you like a little bit of spoilers on it?
no,
I know
not
you
at
said you
all.
might come back to the game. Okay, so that guy, there's like a little bit of a hint of what's going to happen, but that guy tries to run and like a big rock falls on top of him. And Ori, it's like a small cutscene within the game. Ori actually pulls the rock off of him and he just kind of stops and then leaves. But it kind of tells you in the story like that he changed that day
Oh,
because of Ori's kindness that he's shown. So you kind of get this little sense that maybe like the bad things in the forest can kind of be coerced into being friendly
right.
because Ori's a peaceful creature, kind of.
What
But
is Ori? Because I don't think I got far enough into the story. Is it like is Ori like a spirit or like an actual corporeal being?
oh my god, it's kind. I remember kind of reading this about it because I kind of what is Ori? He's adorable. I think
Absolutely
he's like an embodiment of the tree or something. Like
right.
he's the child of the. Am I mixing up multiple games here? I think he's like an embodiment of the spirit of the tree or something like that, or the tree's voice. Maybe
Gotcha, gotcha.
we'll see what I don't. Yeah, what?
Get in the comments. Tell us if we're correct or not.
Yeah,
We
just go ahead and
we played these games, do no research outside of what we played, and try to come up with things to talk about.
yeah, go ahead and just ruin my day. Dump it on me here. I really do want to talk about this because this was like I think you and I have a very different feeling getting from this game. There was an area that it was super dark and I don't think I should have been there yet. I was there a little bit prematurely, like based on how much health my character had and everything. But the only reason you can see where you're supposed to go is because there's enemies inside of the cave that are moving, and you can see that where they're at is solid ground because you know that the enemies don't go on the spikes and they'll die if they do. So I would jump to those areas and kill the enemy and move through it. And then you grab this ball of light that's heavy. Like it actually changes
Oh,
the physics of your character a little bit. So then all of your jumps are harder to make, and this light shows platforms that are only there when you're holding the light. And there's this part, it's kind of hard to describe it, but there's a part where you're creating these platforms by holding this light, and they're only near you when they're near the light ball. And then there's also these things that it erases, like platforms it'll erase. Well, then there's one of these giant lasers that is hitting a platform. So if you approach the platform with the ball of light, it deletes the platform above you and the laser cuts off your path. So you know you need to set the ball of light down, jump to the next area, and then go, progress. But when you put the ball of light down, Ori's physics change again, and you've been playing for a pretty good amount of time with these heavy weighted physics. So then I set the ball of light down and I go to make that jump and I overshoot it like crazy and die. And it happened so many times, even when I was aware of it, I just wasn't mentally and physically compensating for that anymore. And when I did finish that part, it felt really good. And I think that's what I like about these games. And maybe you have a less patience with it. But
mhm.
I'm like looking for that like pat on the back from the game for beating it, you know?
Either we had talked about this because we'll chat about the games a little bit between us. Either you had brought this up before, or I did get to that little ball of light, but didn't go any further than that. And that sounds familiar,
Yeah.
but I don't
I could
remember
see you
interacting
getting there and
with
just being like, nope.
it.
That's okay.
It's a
It's
good
not
chance.
it was my backlog in my game, not yours, you know. I just wanted a friend to play it with, that's all. Did you I don't one thing I noticed through the whole game in general is that the more you explore, the stronger you get because you'll gain there's like levels, kind of like an experience system by beating enemies. So the game would get a little bit easier if you're having a difficult time, you could get more health. I noticed a lot of the game's difficulty felt more front loaded as far as the things you experienced were very much like in the front of the game, whereas near the end it became about the difficulty of platforming. You know, like there were times where I would save the game just to help replenish my health because I think you would gain 2 health dots if you saved with the build that I went.
Right.
So that means that energy became almost a non-issue eventually.
Hmm.
And then near the end of the game, I didn't find myself dying because I was taking damage from enemies and stuff like that, because you do so much damage later on. I was dying because you would hit areas where it was basically only platforming damage that I was taking damage from.
Right.
And then there's a couple areas where the game is like it's the old like the levels pushing you along thing.
Okay.
I think of like Mario was one of the first games I ever played where the level is moving and you just have to traverse it at the speed that the game is telling you to.
Right.
There's probably a term for that, but those levels were tough. And I mean tough.
Scrolling, but yeah.
Yeah, there was one thing in particular, the Ginso tree. That's the first main objective that you're trying to do is go to this tree and restore water for the whole area. Do you recall that was like what they told you to do?
Yeah, I vaguely, yeah.
Okay, so here's some little spoiler for you. You restore the light to this tree via some platforming. You get this ability called Bash, which was my favorite ability. What it does is you kind of latch onto an enemy or an orb, and then you point what direction you want to go, and Ori just flies in that direction. So when you restore water to the tree, the water's going to kill you, and it just comes up the tree super fast, and you have to traverse the tree with spikes everywhere and water coming up. And if you miss like even one orb, you're dead.
Oh, wow.
And it was tough, man. I want to say I think I died 40 to 60 times on it. I guess we would average that at 50. But I died a lot, and I felt really good to get past it. I have a video of it if you want to watch it like at another point. I'm just putting it in the Discord. I think this is like a person doing it flawlessly, so it's not going to be nearly the struggle that I went through. But when you look at the comments of that video, like people are like saying like you made it look easy. I died so many times here. People are saying this is when they quit the game because it was just it's a shame that this was so difficult because this is what made me quit. And this wasn't even that tough compared to like the very last part of the game for me, but it was cool. It just felt really good to be able to beat that section, and that's when I knew, like, no matter what, I was gonna just finish the game because it was just so rewarding. I guess. Are you watching it or
no? I'm not watching it yet. But I'm just kind of listening to your description of it. I was having trouble. I had just gotten my double jump, and I'd already gotten back a little bit, so I'd had my double jump for maybe a couple hours. No, I didn't play for a couple hours. It felt like hours. I probably had it
almost a couple
of gameplay. I probably had it for maybe 20 minutes. And
wow, dang, dude.
And I'm curious if the double jump ever got better through like talents or whatever, because it was
actually a triple jump eventually.
It wasn't enough. Like I was stuck in a pit, and I had to like hit the wall, bounce, hit the wall, double bounce, hit the wall, and navigate through some spikes just to get back to where I could like progress, because I was in a pit, right?
Yeah.
And I could not get out. Like I couldn't figure out how to, like, it was just, I couldn't time it right or something. And I was just having trouble with just your basic like double jump of doing like the one wall to like wall jumping.
There's a couple things in the game. You eventually can get a triple jump, which I think you can beat the game without even getting triple jump, but there is the ability that's in the ability tree that I went through first. There's also a dash in midair you can get, which I found really helpful, where you basically, I guess in Ori's thing, it's like 8 body lengths of Ori forward in midair. You can also do that only in the definitive edition. You can do that on the ground.
Right.
So it kind of speeds up the pace of the game. And then eventually you get a feather, which you use as a slow fall ability, which helps again because it gives you and there's like a wall climb thing where your character doesn't have to double like wall jump climb over and over again. You can actually like cling to the wall. And that's what I mean, how the game gets a lot easier the more stuff you unlock as you unlock it, because you become much more equipped to traverse the entire game successfully.
I'm I probably heard like a third of that. I'm watching that video you just posted.
It's crazy, right?
I'm my heart is pounding right now just watching
Dude,
this.
it's
I
it's
would
yeah.
never have done this.
I know it was tough. I swear I died
I thought this
probably.
honestly, I mean, and kids now for this comment, kids nowadays are crazy. I thought this game was for kids. My son couldn't do
It
this.
does have like a very cutesy little look
That's
to it, but yeah,
rough. Holy
yeah.
Lord, dude.
And to me, that wasn't even the final platforming boss. If you, I don't know, it's not really a boss fight, but the final boss of the game was more difficult for me than this part. But I think this part is more difficult for most people.
Oh my
That guy is
Lord.
also getting the orbs. I skipped some of those orbs that he got in the little video you're watching.
Oh my goodness, that's wild.
I like that ability a lot though, and I didn't realize through it, like when I played, I guess you can use that ability on anything. So if there's an enemy, you there like on the speed run, this guy on a speed run is using it on every single enemy he encounters, and he just flies through the game. It's crazy.
Hmm.
But I'll close out of that. That moment of that tree was when I switched. Traditionally, I guess in most platformers, you want to use a D-pad. At least that's what all the nerds do, and that's what I hear on the internet, and that's what I hear and feel.
Mhm.
But I had to switch to the control stick for that part, which was cool because I feel like that's what made it feel like a modern platformer to me.
Yeah.
Switching, because if you think about aiming that arrow that shows up on the screen, you're not going to be able to really do that accurate. As in my opinion, I couldn't aim it accurately with a D-pad because a control stick has a lot more.
Yeah.
It just fits that a little bit better. I thought that was kind of neat because they found a way to make it like it was an Xbox controller game. So they, it just I thought it was neat.
Yeah, I use the joysticks for all of my playthrough.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess you probably could have because the game had really tight controls. I saw you put the controls were responsive.
Very, yeah.
Yeah, and they better be because it's the only platformer I can think of that like I should like is like the new Donkey Kong games have terribly like just the controls feel slimy. But I want tight controls in a game. I want it to feel like what I'm doing is important, not just watching a monkey roll.
So what else is left here?
Yeah, I'll go over a few things. I died 458 times when I played through the game, and it took me 12 hours to beat it, and then I played for about another 2 hours. It's different from what it said on my Steam, but my thing shows that I played for almost 14 hours total. That's because I went back and I got like more of the extra health and the abilities and maxed out all 3 parts of the skill tree.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I don't know. There was also like random, and it kind of shocked me when it happened. But I heard the Wilhelm scream. I killed an enemy. I knocked it off a cliff, and it's just like I don't want to do my impersonation of it, but
That's so good. There's
it was just cool because it was very random.
yeah. There's apparently somewhere on the internet the person that does the Wilhelm scream. There's alternatives to it. Like
Oh, really?
The guy, when whoever did it, the guy that was in the booth did a couple of them, but the one we all know is the one they chose for whatever movie or thing it was, and that's the one that
Yeah.
stuck or yeah stuck. But there is apparently like 4 or 5 other ones that are floating around there.
I know there's a Howie scream, which is like extremely visceral. I've heard it in a couple other things, but it's like it sounds like it comes from deeper.
So good.
And then I guess we could kind of touch on the ending a little bit if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I initially I was gonna say at the beginning, and we didn't. I was like, oh, there probably aren't too many spoilers, but I'm
Not many,
thinking
not
I
many.
might have been a little wrong with that. But I don't think it'll be that bad. I think this game, to me, just from the little I watched online and hearing you discuss it, I think the playing of the game is the biggest thing, not necessarily
It's the
story.
experience, yeah.
Sure.
The story I think is kind of touching to some. Like a lot of people really did like the story. I had to look up a little bit about it because I didn't fully grasp it. But I guess according to Reddit, that was a common thing that people had. I had part of the ending spoiled for me a little bit. There was the Steam sale that I bought it on. I got both editions of the game.
Right.
So I got the definitive and the regular, and then I also got Will of the Wisp packaged in with it. Will of the Wisps has Ori on the in the banner of on Steam. It has Ori and then it has an owl. The enemy of the game is an owl. So I was thinking like, okay, obviously Ori and the owl are going to end up becoming friends or something. And then when the little guy, like the little monkey guy, Gumo or Gummo, I can't remember how you say it. When that guy becomes friendly, that's when I knew. I was like, okay, obviously the owl is going to kind of come around to being friends. So kind of had that spoiled for me a little bit. It's not exactly that. That's not necessarily the exact ending, but it was kind of funny to me because it was like probably very unintentional, but it's a pretty big thing. I think that they maybe didn't consider.
Well,
but,
I think when the game's already almost 10 years old.
Come on, man.
Yeah, hey, how's that?
Yeah, it's true.
I think and when did Will of the Wisp come out? It was
this ain't that game, dude. It ain't that podcast.
I know, but I'm just curious, just to put it in context. They were sent out 5 years apart. So I mean,
yeah, you had time.
At some point, you got to be like, hey, spoilers. At what point is it socially acceptable to say you can't really worry about spoilers?
Well, people still get mad about like if you spoil Harry Potter or something. So
that's very true.
Which we're not going to get into. The last part of the game, you're being chased by that owl, the big daddy owl, mommy owl, whatever.
Right.
And I think I died 100 times. That added like 100 deaths to my death count. I was also cooking dinner, and in between checking temperatures on food and stuff like that, I was playing. So I think I was like sort of distracted, a little bit sweaty. I was actually grilling food.
Oh, good Lord.
So yeah, it was very intense for me. But it was cool because it was like the ultimate test of like being able to use every single skill. And I really thought it was a lot of fun. It was very tough. And I kept getting right at the end. And I knew like if I didn't time it perfectly, I was going to never going to finish it. And I think the very last like 3 or 4 jumps or platforming skill tests, I think I died on that part alone like 20 times just because it was that part kept tripping me up.
Wow.
And then you could kind of do the trial by death thing and figure out like you got to that next step, now you know what's coming and you have to kind of try to remember it. It was good. When I finished it, I looked up like what the heck the story was about because it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Like, why did any of this even happen? So I put like just quick notes in it. I know you didn't finish it, but maybe somebody didn't understand it either, but they didn't care enough to look it up. Ori gets lost during a storm. The light tree calls out to Ori, and I guess it's understood that because owls are nocturnal, the light tree calling out to Ori is what kind of what killed most of the baby owls, and that's why the mom went on a rampage and took the light away because she was trying to protect her baby owl. So then at the end of the game, she sacrifices herself to put the light back, kills herself in the process, and Ori becomes like friends with the baby owl.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So that's why it's not exactly that, but that like the next game isn't the mommy owl or whatever, but it's cool because that was what rounded it out, and I was like, oh wow, the story actually was pretty good. But maybe if they had voice actors, I would have known that, right?
Yeah, maybe that was it. If it wasn't Jabba that was giving you his thoughts on it.
Yeah. I don't speak whatever Jabba does. There's a language, right?
I'm pretty sure. I was gonna look up more about it for my little tidbit on it, and life.
Yeah, that's all right. Did you like it at all? Would you play it again? Like if you got a new controller?
Oh yeah. And for that, real quick, when I travel, I had this like 10-year-old controller.
Yeah.
It looks like an Xbox controller, but it's some third party. And I hadn't, before we started the podcast, I hadn't used it in probably, my son's 7, and I got it before he was born. So I haven't used it in like 7+ years.
Yeah.
And
out on this game broke your controller.
I'm sitting there in the hotel, and I'm using the A key for a jump or something, and it just starts sticking. So it I pressed it in, and it got stuck there for like 3 seconds. So it was rough. So I threw it in the trash. Yeah, I think I would play it again. I think just life really kicked my butt on this one. So
it's okay. Yeah.
And that's something I wanted to say for anybody listening. Like I play games to get out of real life, right? Use that as an escape or whatever you want to do. You want it to be fun. And the fact of me trying to play this for the podcast and also to have fun the act of attempting to do that was making all the other life stuff worse.
Right.
So it was
Damn.
just it was bad. It was like, oh, I have
you should
to,
have pawned your kids off on somebody for a minute, man.
I'm going through my list of like to do things ranging from real serious things to like, changing out the laundry and doing dish, like all that little stuff, right? And in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, shit, I also have to play. I gotta go play a game so then we can talk about it and it'd be somewhat genuine. And I'm sitting there stressing out
I'm
over
having such a good time with it
over
that I'm
trying to
barbecuing while I'm playing it, and I'm excited to talk to you about it, and it's looming over your shoulder like
oh man.
like
So yeah, I would just a little PSA for people. Games are meant to be fun. If you're stressing out over it, it'll be there when you get back. Just
yeah,
put the
just
controller
put it back
down.
on the backlog.
Yeah, backlog's gonna be there. Just let it sit. It's not come. It's come off of your backlog. Hasn't come off of mine. I'll get to it
Yeah.
eventually.
If you do play it again, let me know because
Yeah.
I would like to try it in and maybe play it in a different way or something.
Yeah.
Or
And I'm also I'm seeing I've got Ori or the first one, and I've also got Will o' the Wisps on my. I'm not going to fully write it off. I'd like to play the other one as well. So
yeah, I would say next time if you play it, next time maybe try to get more health a little earlier on. Be in a good, I think, like a good place to play it and put the time in it too, because I feel like this is kind of one of those games that if you even take like a little bit of time away from it, you kind of forget what abilities you have and how to use them properly,
Mhm.
and you just get more and more as the game goes on. So I feel like it's better to play it a little bit more consecutively.
Oh, for sure.
But
And
it's a short game, so
yeah, definitely. And I think this also kind of can lead into this can also lead into our little discussion offline about the issues I was having specifically about trying to juggle two games as well as life, right? So what we've been doing historically is at the end of every other episode, we'll say what games each of us are bringing in, and then we'll set those aside. So now we've got two games on our plate to play through. And I think what we're going to do is break that up, and we're still going to alternate because you bring one to the table, I bring one to the table. And I think
got
we need to do that.
paralysis hard on that.
Yeah, I'm real bad at switching games.
Yeah.
When you put 14 hours into Ori, and then BioShock is another. It's over 10 at least. That's a lot to cram in and try and do them both.
Right.
And then by the time we get to our recording, you played Ori a month ago. I last put my controller down 7 days ago. So very different levels of like discussion there. So I think moving forward, you and I may discuss what we might bring up, but I don't want to make it too hard of a line because we've already talked about our one after BioShock, and like we've already got it downloaded. You've already got it put on your, you've already put a couple of minutes into it. So
Dude, I put 2 hours into the first cutscene. Yeah,
I don't want to. So I want to try and give us a little restraint. You and I, some like self-restraint to wait long enough to say the next game because we're both going to get into it, and I don't want us to get stressed out, especially me. I don't want to get stressed out on it. So
yeah, man, this isn't supposed to. Yeah, dude, I ain't playing video games. I don't play Dark Souls. Okay, I'm not trying to ruin my life for a video game.
And that was my next game. No,
God, dude.
No.
All right.
No, so I think with that we can go ahead and say our next game is still going to be BioShock. That was the one that I brought, so that'll be our next one. And then at the end of our BioShock episode, we will announce our next game. And then at the end of that one, we'll just do one at a time. We're still going to have the release schedule of every other week, but we'll just be releasing one announced game at a time.
Yeah, and I think that'll be easier for other people to keep up too. If anyone wants to try to play along and then, kind of review the podcast with us. And, I think it'll be a little bit easier. I feel like that's how most formats are, and we're just figuring things out still.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that kind of concludes the discussion of Ori. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about it?
No, I don't think so. I think it was a good game. I think
I've had enough.
I've had enough, but it wasn't about the game. It was just about the real life thing. So I think the game is good. I think you got to go try it if you can handle those. Like it's a tough platformer. It's hard. But if you can get past that and you like that challenge, I think it's worth it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I liked it. So I'll try to keep it in mind that it was more difficult. If There's another one that I try to pick in the future. Maybe I'll put it on my back pocket backlog, and we won't.
No, but this is something else too, and I think I mentioned it in one of the other episodes. You know, this was the game that you brought forth. It wasn't necessarily on my list. I think it was. I don't know if I officially put it on there, but you got your experience out of it. I got my experience out of it, and it's fine if you and I both played the Wind Waker game and we got enough out of it. We didn't finish it, but we had enough.
I got too much out of that game,
and that's valid. So I don't think you have to finish every game if it's on your backlog and you've attempted it and it wasn't for you or it was for you. That both are valid.
It's really all about, I mean, dude, you didn't like the game that much. You had a difficult time with it, but wasn't this discussion just like you can't regret it?
Oh, the discussion is great. I do like talking about them. I had a little bit less to say because my experience was like a tenth of yours. Yeah, it was still fun to talk about it. Definitely.
Yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble for the last 90 minutes.
So yeah, I think that's it. Thanks everybody.
Thanks so much for listening. That wraps up our discussion for Ori and the Blind Forest, the definitive edition. If you enjoyed this episode, please let us know with a thumbs up, a comment, or sharing with your friends and family. If you're able to do so, play along with us next time when we play BioShock. We'll keep posting upcoming games to our socials and what games are up next at the end of each episode. This has been 321 Backlog by Alec L. and James T. Our show music is Liftoff by Amy Waters. You can find this song and more of their work at amywaters.bandcamp.com. You can connect with us on any of our social media pages and by sending us an email at 321backlog@gmail.com. Until next time.